Good evening. I'm going to call to order the Wellfleet Select Board's meeting
Thank you.
of June 11th, 2019, at 7 p.m. at the Wellfleet Senior Center. We'll begin with announcements, open session, and public comments. Comments must be brief, and the board will not deliberate or vote on any matter raised during the announcements and public comments. Are there any announcements or comments from the board?
Yes. On Thursday at 6:30 at the elementary school, the DCR, the Department of Conservation and Recreation, is going to have a public meeting only on that. And it's at 6:30, and the second announcement is, it's about the bike path. The second announcement is a general one for the summer. The sluice, which is how we refer to the beach that exists between Gull Pond and Higgins Pond, has real restrictions about parking and overuse. And it should go out into the public's consciousness that blocking that up and, blocking up that road, which there are people that live down there that might need emergency access. Blocking that road, parking there in violation of what the signs tell you to do is not only dangerous, but it's environmentally not sound. So I'm just putting that out there.
Thank you. Anyone else from the board? Any announcements from the audience?
As is customary, I'd like to bring our new summer officers up to the board for introductions. Last week we had our new officer. This week is our other officer. This is our Rashawn Gross. He's a Nauset High School graduate, and he'll be with us this summer. He's had some experience on the vineyard, so we're very excited to have him on board.
Great. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, I told him he couldn't stay. He had to go back to work, so.
Okay, great. Good to meet you.
All right. I have 3 quick announcements, if I could. You may have noticed that we're going to have a Special Olympics Tip-A-Cop will be coming up on Wednesday, June 19th, from 5:30 to 9 o'clock at the Pearl Restaurant. This is a new adventure for us that we're putting together. We'll have the police officers working with the staff at Pearl to meet the public, greet the public. It'll be a fundraiser for the Special Olympics, so we're very excited by that. I won't be at the next meeting, so I'm going to go through a couple quick ones a little further down. There'll be a traffic alert for Saturday, June 22nd. That is going to be our new triathlon that we approved. It's going to be a bike from Wellfleet up into Truro, back to Wellfleet, and they'll be running the dirt roads and the back roads, some of the fire roads, doing some swimming, working their way back through Long Pond, down to Main Street, and back to the Congo Church. We should have minimal road closures or road disruptions, so just be about 150 people out on bikes and running and things like that, so something new and exciting for Wellfleet. And our last item I have for us is bike lights. We have our new shipment of bike lights have come in. We were giving them out this past weekend at the bike fair. We'll be meeting with the J1 Visa people on Wednesday, June 26th, where we'll be providing bike lights to all those J1 workers. And our evening and night shifts will have them available so we can help distribute them on the shift to try to keep our bicycles a little safer. And we will have a minimum amount at the station available if anybody would like one after June 26th when we have a chance to work with the J1s first.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions from the audience? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to the beach rules and regulations that have been presented by our beach director and shellfish constable.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Suzanne Thomas. I'm the Director of Community Services, and I want to give you a little background on this request tonight. Back in the fall of 2018, I met with the Shellfish Constable and the Animal Control Officer about uniform regulations and signage about dogs under the existing rules. And we came to the conclusion that the existing fine structure was out of date. ACO Desmond Keogh was currently being certified as an animal control officer, and he pointed out that we didn't match the Mass General Law pattern of fines. So we decided to go forward with amending that. The way things do, it fell off the table for about 4 months, and then we came back a little while ago, and the shellfish constable said, well, while we're doing that, why don't we add this landing and this landing and this landing, which she did. So today, there's been some response to that from the public to the administration office, all over Facebook, and the general scuttlebutt out on the street. So I would like to ask you if we could do this in 2 ways. Could we start with the amended fee structure section and then move to the added landings? Nancy is unable to be here tonight, and I feel rather uncomfortable being the flag bearer for the additional landing and the subject of horses and dogs in general. I was in email conversation with her today, and she's in agreement that if the board so agrees, that we would come back at a later date after this has been had a community conversation about this, including the Shellfish Advisory Board, and bring those results back to the Board of Selectmen. So that's my
Sounds fine with me.
first
Does that sound
request.
good with the rest of the board?
Yes, Madam.
Which would
Okay.
mean that the existing regs would stand at least for the summer,
Okay,
because this wouldn't happen until the fall.
okay. I had a question for you.
Sure.
So aside from all that, with the lessons and events, last week, fun seekers came before us, or last meeting, fun seekers came before us and had Gull Pond listed as a place that he could go and teach. And I assume that because you signed off on it, you saw that and agreed to it.
I had that discussion with Eric before he submitted his application, and my reservation is I don't want him there during the high season between 9 and 5, from the third Saturday in June through Labor Day. If he can do his operations before the third Saturday and after Labor Day, with your permission, that I was okay with that.
Okay. That's fine. Good. Thank you for clarifying that.
Janet, that was,
Kathleen?
yeah, that was not his request with us. His request was to use the pond between 6 and 9 a.m. during season, and between 5 and 7 p.m. during the season.
He
So-
touched on that briefly. I have a little problem with the morning, because I know the first swimming lessons are 8 o'clock. And and that's when the rec kids go for swimming lessons before they go down to Bakersfield for the day program. So I am a little less comfortable with the morning hours.
Madam
Well,
Chair?
I'm not finished, Helen. May we get a clarification from Eric to you exactly when he intends to use the pond during the season and at what time? Because here, we have listed activities at Gull Pond are limited to swimming lessons conducted by the Recreation Department, B, extended day summer recreation conducted by the Recreation Department, and C, supervised canoe and kayak tours by the Cape Cod National Seashore or Mass Audubon. What we did when we developed this policy was we took for-profit business use off of Gull Pond. We conditioned his license in 2018, his business permit with the town of Wellfleet. We conditioned that license that he was not to use Gull Pond. Now we have him using Gull Pond during the season between the hours of 6 and 9 a.m. and between the hours of 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. during the season. So that seems to be a little slippery. It is a policy that was created by this board at the suggestion of our conservation agent and the Board of Health. and we had many conversations with Gulpaca over this, so there was a reason why we did this. Took for-profit business use off of Gull Pond. Now we're allowing it.
Well, two things. My understanding of these regulations, it's during the summer season, which is defined in the regulations as between the third Saturday in June through Labor Day, between 9 and 5 during the day. When I talked to Eric, and he said, I want to ask for this, my response was, I don't have a problem with the before and after season, and if you want to use it early morning and late afternoon, you have to ask the Board of Selectmen, that I can't authorize that. So he brought it to you, and unfortunately, I couldn't be here last time when he was here with his application, so there is that disconnect for this particular time. I'll be happy to have the conversation with Eric.
Yeah, I think just so both of you are on the same page and it's clear.
Right, I apologize for the confusion. My understanding is not a 24/7 at Gull Pond, it's during the summer season that these regulations apply.
Okay. So that would also bring up to lessons and events. These were only done, rewritten a few years ago, but to include paddleboard, SUP, whatever you do, if you are so inclined, to add that to the lessons and events.
Well, would you like to have another hearing to change it, or would you just consider it housekeeping and allow me to change it?
Yeah,
I
housekeeping.
kind of think it's housekeeping, because
Okay.
it's just, I don't think paddleboard was really around 5 or 6 years ago when we updated these, 6 or 7 years ago. So I think you could just add it, right? Board feels okay? Okay.
Okay.
And since many people are here, and I'm sure you're here for, or many of you are here for the dog discussion, it may be good for you to read our regulations, because, there are more dogs around than there used to be, right? Everybody knows that. Everybody likes to have a dog now, or many people like to. And there are reasons why there's restrictions. So the best way to not have more restrictions is to kindly follow what's being asked. And with that too, there's a lot of people from out of town that have seen other dogs on the beach and they let theirs go, whatever. If you see somebody, inform them gently of the regulations. It would save a lot of problems, if somebody's off leash. I know that even around the ponds, it's May, and you think, well, it's May, it's pre-season, but May 15th is our season to start not having dogs around the ponds. So just kind of think about rereading the regulations and encouraging everybody to do that.
Janet, I have a question. Madam Chair, through you to Suzanne. What is the fine for a violation of not picking up after your dog?
Right now, the only fine is the $50 non-criminal violation.
$50 for not picking up after your dog.
Correct, but there has to be someone who's authorized to write the citation who sees it happen. Can't take second-party, third-party reports.
How can we expand that enforcement? Can we expand it to the harbor master, the shellfish department?
Well,
Can we expand it to our town departments, that if they're out there? The point I'm trying to make here is that anybody that lives in Wellfleet year-round is here because of the enormous beauty of this place. I can't imagine that year-round local people are allowing their dogs to defecate, shellfish beds or at the town pier. But a lot of people come from other places where that's just the norm. And unless we increase the violation and up the enforcement and start educating people that our environment is our economy, then we're not going to change this. But to blame or to, I take the word blame out of it, but, to penalize just absolutely everybody over this seems unjust. I'm a dog owner, and I care about the woods, the beaches, everywhere we walk. How anybody else can not do that, and I've seen the pictures from the pier. I've seen the photographs. You know, Janet says you gotta be gentle. I think we gotta start being really loud and advocating for our environment and start shaming these people that this just isn't gonna.
I totally agree with you, Kathleen, and one of the things I don't like to do or try to avoid doing by unintentionally is to penalize the majority for the actions of a few. However, if you want regulations with more teeth, it has to be a general bylaw, because pretty much these regulations are easy to amend and speedily can be changed by the Board of Selectmen to have real teeth and a permanent impact. The dog regulations, it's not so much dog regulations as loose dog regulations. People are happy with dogs who are on the leash or under voice command and behave themselves and do what they're supposed to do and, are amenable and friendly. It's the loose dogs that people feel menaced by, people are bitten by. The ACO responds that the number of dog bites every year in Wellfleet is an astonishing number to him. So I think that needs to be looked at to give whoever is ACO in any community needs to have a strong bylaw behind them to be able to enforce that bylaw. And it's usually a handful of owners who abuse it. It's not the vast majority.
So it's more than just fecal matter. It's a matter of.
It's both. It's not just, but it's equally important.
Well, and I've run into that too. I ran into it just the other day with a couple that had their dog held up like this by the collar as we walked by. And I said, what's all the anxiety? Oh, she said, he's very aggressive when he's on the leash. I mean, my dog and I were completely freaked out of what this couple were doing to choke their dog. And that's out of Boundbrook, in the middle of nowhere.
Okay, so that's, yeah.
But I agree, but I would recommend that the board turn to maybe a group, the Health and Conservation Officer for the health reasons, the Shellfish Constable, the ACO, and come up with a uniform animal code that could be adopted as a bylaw at town meeting, but you have to get buy-in before it comes to town meeting. You can't just plop it on people. And I think that's what creates a lot of the confusion and pushback, is that it's all of a sudden. Even though the little groups are working on it, it doesn't get broadcast appropriately.
Madam Chair. Yes, Helen?
So a little background here. When I was on the Shellfish Committee in 2009, we were directed by the Select Board to address very specifically dogs not being picked up after on the beaches. And we worked on it for a really long time. We talked to the police department, we talked to the health agent, then we talked to the park, because we wanted to be consistent with the park so that people wouldn't get confused. You have a town landing and then beyond it is the park. How are people supposed to know? The chair and I drove around and looked at every single town landing, freshwater or salt, and looked at the signage, which was contradictory about dogs. And we talked about it and talked about it and talked most especially with the beach administrator, and we talked with dog owners, and everybody on the Shellfish Committee at that time was a dog lover. And here's what we came up with. We decided, because whether they're regulations or bylaws or not, people were going to have their dogs on the beaches, even the ones where you weren't supposed to have them. What we wanted, and this has been given to us in this draft of the beach regulations, we wanted way more enforcement. We wanted way higher penalties. In other words, the first thing the state says, the first offense, you have to get a written warning. After that, We wanted them charged a lot of money. And there were stories that came up of people who live here year-round basically saying, I've got enough money and just paying the fees and letting their dog continue and not picking it up right in front of people. The other thing we wanted was support from all the departments. And the last thing we thought was, okay, you get a written warning, and then you have a second offense, and the next year you don't get a beach permit. We wanted it to be really heavy, but we also wanted every beach to be available to dogs. Now, the real issue of off-leash for me, besides the fact that people can get bitten and some dogs are really not managed well. I grew up with a dog like that. It wasn't good. Is that if they're off-leash and they take a dump way down the beach, the owner can't see it or whatever, and they don't get picked up after. So I would like to go back to that because that only lasted for a year that all the beaches were available for dog walking, because too many people, for example, on Mayo Beach, right, saw from their grants people letting their dogs take a dump and not doing anything. The person watching the dog and not doing anything. And now, through you, Madam Chair, I have an important question for everybody in the room. I have been politely, but, the way I am, asking people with dogs when I see them, do you have a plastic bag? Because we have a lot of issues with shellfishing. How many people here have had the social conscience to do that? It's sort of uncomfortable, saying that to someone on the beach that you don't know, but how many people have actually spoken to people with dogs and said, I have, nobody else is raising their hand, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 6 people. Well, you know what? You've got to speak to the people, too. Okay,
Right,
yeah, sorry.
yeah.
Do you understand my point where I'm asking this? We have to be good hosts, and it includes letting people know what the stakes are when the dogs are on the harbor, because whatever happens with these regs or general bylaw, those dogs are going to be there, unfortunately. And also to have the different departments get together and discuss enforcement. Because even though we have 3 people in the shellfish department, and we have a seasonal person here now, so it's 4 people in season, the shellfish department, they've got to do Vibrio patrols, and they can't do it alone. The police have to take this seriously. Whoever else is out there, the people at the marina have to take it seriously. And I'm sorry, there are a lot of people who live here year-round that were letting their dogs use the marina and not picking up after them.
Yeah, that's why it's a problem. Chief Facette, do you have any comment on your staff enforcing this?
Well, it is tough to enforce. It's tough to catch people doing it
Yeah.
and things like that. We have put people out to watch for it. The animal control officer is very good about being out there and working with people. He just put a dog off of quarantine from a bite. He's a very active person, a lot of things going on. So we are working on it. But I do see the dog stuff. I also see the bags and the mitts tossed when no one's looking.
Yeah.
So it is a very difficult problem.
Yeah.
And it wasn't created in a day. We're not going to solve it in a day, but I think it's good to have a discussion. And I happen to like what Suzanne mentioned, is that can we set up a committee? This needs discussion. And I think people need to be involved in the discussion to try and come up with a way to help move this forward. And I think we'll make incremental steps.
Okay. Yeah, I think it should come down to, go to the microphone.
I need to go to the microphone?
Yes, you do. I know you can't believe that, but yes. So if I'm hearing everyone right, it's up to the individual. It's up to you to, if you're not taking care of your dog and what your dog does, then there will be harsher restrictions, and nobody wants the harsher restrictions. So tell your friends, tell people you see on the beach, and I'll say what Helen said, is that you can correct somebody on the beach, and they'll just yell back at you or ignore you or something. So that doesn't always work, but we just have to be proactive and keep it going. Okay.
Hi.
Identify yourself.
My name is Jim. My name is Jody Birchall. I've lived in Wellfleet since 1960. I lived in Wellfleet since 1960.
No, use the mic. Use the mic because it hooks up to the video.
I've lived in Wellfleet since 1966. Lived on Mayo Beach, walked my dogs on the beach. I was raised you pick up your dog poop. It was nothing where there were bags provided. We used to pick through the trash in the parking lot and get a bag or a newspaper or something to pick up the poop. Unfortunately, initially what I want to say, what Suzanne's suggestion is to just talk about voting on the one thing and leaving the dog and horse discussions about the beaches to a later date, because I really think it's important, like Officer Frissette said, is to make this be a bigger community discussion. I would like to suggest a subcommittee of people in town that own horses and dogs, and maybe have one member of the select body or the Shellfish Advisory Board or somebody be a part of that to help run those types of meetings to get some honest opinions. There's all kinds of stuff that flies around this town. If you've lived here for a really, really long time, one of the most unfortunate things about living in Wellfleet is we have this divide between locals and Washashores. It gets very annoying because the Washashores are our bread and butter. However, they also tend to push items that don't affect them at all because they're here for such a short period of time. So I think it's really important to respect those of us that live here year-round, who have chosen to live here for the beauty and grace of the area and own animals and do the right thing with our animals, and own horses and do the right thing with our horses, have the people come inspect our property regularly, do exactly what we're supposed to do. So it gets really frustrating because I can guarantee you every single person that's in this room is not the person whose dog is pooping on the beach. The people that care are taking care. So it gets frustrating when there's kind of out of nowhere these new regulations coming out. I think expanding the areas is a mistake. We need places to go to find those solace with our animals, that we are responsible people. I really think a discussion further is necessary. I'm a school teacher at Nauset Regional High School. I also work in the chemistry and biology department. That's my specialty. I teach all the upper level sciences and maths. There's a lot of science between things that are being claimed about urine and those kinds of things on the beaches and what causes more problems. We know in our hearts that it's the birds, the gulls, the leaching of the septic systems. Yes, occasional dog poop carries high amounts of bacteria, but most of the dogs are pooping in the rack line. Quite honestly, if we're honest, myself included, we pee in the water when we swim. So it gets frustrating when you're bringing about these regulations to ban things that are minimal and not part of the bigger picture, and we're not taking care of ourselves. That should be a little bit more sensitive to the fact that, I see people peeing off boats, they're swimming in the water and they're peeing. So that's just kind of my opinion right now. I had a lot of research that I was coming through about the science behind what happens, but it seems to me the way that this discussion is going is more about enforcement of dogs on leashes more than the poop thing. The poop factor, when it comes to the pier, in the wintertime there's no trash cans. I think you should be responsible for your own poop bag. If you're complaining that you can't pick up your dog poop because there's not a poop bag provided for you, shame on you. However, it's a convenience and it's something that should help support the fact that people should be picking up for themselves. I've seen people put poop bags inside the beautiful flower boxes that are around the pier because they have no place to put them. Granted, you should probably take it back to your car. For those of you who have dogs and pick up your poop, the bags are somewhat porous. So I think the beaches need to have a trash can. I know the DPW doesn't like to do that because they think weekend warriors are coming and dumping trash. But there needs to be a place, it needs to be made more convenient for people to comply with regulations. And there needs to be, the signage needs to be clear, and I think we do need to self-enforce because there's no way the police department can enforce these kinds of things. And it is difficult to say something to somebody. I have no objection to saying something, but I've been lambasted a couple times, so I just put my hands up and I go, okay, and right in front of them, I pick up their dog poop myself, and I try and hand it to them, and when they don't take it, I said, okay, I can carry it. But it's a difficult thing to enforce. It's like you literally have to see them in action. So I think the fact that if we put together a group of citizens that is passionate about their animals and doing things the right way, and these regulations come from the community at large, even though we have all of our elected officials that are working to represent us, a lot of us don't have a lot of time to put, and it's just so nice to see Mike and younger people getting involved. But a lot of the reason some of the younger people are leaving town, A, financially, B, it's becoming so restrictive, it's not fun to live here anymore. It's really difficult when you think that you're in the middle of the woods in the middle of the winter and someone's going to yell at you for having your dog off leash or something like that. So I think we need to work collectively as a town, and I would suggest to the selectmen if it would be possible to put together a subcommittee to deal with some of the dog/horse/domesticated animals, including people in that domesticated piece. Thank you.
Okay, good. So I want to move on, okay, because we're not even going to decide anything tonight. And the idea that Suzanne could be in touch with Jody to get a committee going. But we do have we have a long schedule tonight, so I understand that it's an issue and that it shouldn't be. How's that?
I just have to add one thing.
I've been working on this since 2006, Helen.
Yeah.
Yes, that's when we
Yeah,
started.
yeah.
Yeah, so
It's hard.
through you to the audience, hit the pause button on forming a committee until everybody reads what the Shellfish Committee did with a lot of outreach to the public and in other words, we came up with recommendations, a lot of which Jody just said would be a good idea. Please, before we form a committee and reinvent the wheel, take a look at it. There isn't one thing that we recommended that, in my mind, isn't completely applicable now, okay? And I'm glad it's coming up. The one thing I would like to do tonight is raise the fees for enforcement.
Well, then I would ask the board to accept my recommendation of the amendments under number 8, enforcement penalties.
And they're, again, Madam Chair, they're in line with what the Shellfish Committee recommended so many years ago. We worked on it for 3 years.
Do you want to make a motion, Helen?
Yes, and Suzanne, give me some exact words.
To accept the amendments contained within Section 8 of the Beach Rules and Regulations on enforcement.
Penalties.
I move
Penalties.
that we accept the
It's already been a half hour.
changes in the beach rules and regulations as printed in Section 8, enforcement penalties.
Second.
All in favor? Wait, hold on. I was going to say, you sat down. I was going to say, is there any more comments from the audience? But I really don't want to just say that, be concise. We've already spent a half hour on this.
Thank you.
And
I'm
if you have
Joan-
some,
I'm Joan Kinsella, year-round resident. My comments aren't about so much what the rules would be as much as asking that when this is discussed next time or in preparation for it, it be announced clearly to people. I found out
Okay.
through Facebook this morning.
okay.
That's one. 2, that there be science brought to the discussion. And 3, that statements like there's a tremendous amount of dog bites, if we had numbers, that would help us understand what you're talking about.
I agree. I like facts. And it really isn't urine, it's defecation is the main problem.
And Madam Chair, there was science provided
There
to
is.
the Shellfish
Yeah.
Committee, to the Shellfish Constable, which some of you got in my individual response to some of the mail that came in today.
So the best way to know about any meetings and committees and agenda items is to regularly look at our town website, and I'll say upcoming meetings, they'll all have agendas. You can even access minutes from the past, and you can access all the videos from the meetings that are videotaped. So it'll really bring you up to date. Okay. Well, penalties and enforcement, yeah, okay, all right. I hear you. Okay, let's move on to the parking task force report.
You have a motion on the
Oh,
floor,
sorry.
Madam Chair.
I just assumed everybody voted. Okay, all in favor? Okay.
One
Passes.
last comment,
Thank
if you would indulge me. The last horse complaint I got was in 1995.
The last what?
Horse
Oh,
complaint.
horse complaint. I think they make animal diapers out there, but I'm not really
Oh.
sure.
Sweetie, you got to blow it up for me.
Do you feel the need to come up to the table? Do you guys want to come up to the table?
I agree with you, but it's a
Yeah,
step.
okay. So this is a report from our parking task force.
We'll have others participating too. I'm Denny O'Connell, I'm the chair of the Parking Task Force. And I'm going to give this report, and we'll put some data on the website after we have this meeting. The Select Board created the Parking Task Force the second in August of last year after the 4th of July debacle at the Oceanside beaches. This is called the second because there have been preceding studies as parking has been a challenge for many years in Wellfleet. This is an update to the Select Board as we've been requested to give and feel that there's information that can be in the public realm, but you'll be happy to know we're not asking for any approvals tonight. So, our charge is the study and recommendations for the study of and recommendations for parking throughout the town, including beaches and outlying areas. We have scheduled meetings for twice a month, most of which have been video recorded, and so you can see them on the town website and occasionally on the public TV. The Parking Task Force started at ground zero in August of last year, a timing which is after the heaviest parking needs were concluded. We're now authorized for 9 members. Janet Reinhardt has been our Select Board liaison. Staff support has been provided by Mr. Hort and by departments concerned with parking issues. For beaches, Suzanne Thomas and John Ryerson. For the police department, Lieutenant Mike Hurley and Special Officer Mark Spiegel. And for the marina with Mike Flanagan and Will Sullivan. The current members are Joe Aberdale, Wayne Clough, who is the secretary, Dale Donovan, who is the vice chair, Sheila Lyons, Dan Murray, Jenny Parker, Will Sullivan with 1 L, and me as the chair. And later tonight, I hope that you will appoint Dr. Bruce Ketcher to be our 9th member. Our evolution has been basically familiarization by reading previous studies, meeting with experts in the town and elsewhere, in other towns and at the Cape Cod National Seashore. We all experience parking issues in Wellfleet, especially in the summer. The charge of the Parking Task Force was to concern with parking throughout the town. This has led us to segment into 3 areas, the beaches, the town marina, and the downtown district. The beaches have been further segmented into ocean beaches with the largest capacities and the most dynamic, and all other, which are considerably smaller. The elephant in the room that has is what to do about expanding the Whitecrest parking. This is a complex issue, and we have not focused on it yet, but we're gathering data this summer, hopefully to do that. Another elephant in the room, which you will have to consider at some time, is who are we trying to keep happy, and what are our goals? This is, and perhaps even by locations. Because we have 18 locations throughout town with about 1,200 municipal parking spaces. It has been noted that, I'll skip that. There have been several days when the parking space is not adequate at the beaches, in the town, or at the pier. We've considered ways to expand parking by new locations, shuttle buses, and increasing turnover. However, we find we need better and more data during this summer season. We've prepared different surveys, and the surveys are in different stages, and we'll be seeking procedures to obtain more detailed data on daily parking usage. We have 4 separate surveys. The first to be released was for the marina moorings and slip renewals, and we included that with their renewal applications. There are 450 of those. Approximately 3,500 surveys were sent with the tax bill in March. 170 surveys went to business license holders in the town in May, and number 4 is that we're just starting a survey for the visitors who are buying beach stickers And that will take place in the beach sticker office, and it will be an online survey. This has been a considerable learning experience for our parking task force. We've been keeping a listings of findings to date that is regularly published with our posted agenda. For example, there are numerous or several days in the summer when parking demands exceed the available space at most, if not all, parking areas. Parking scarcity would be helped. Number two, parking scarcity would be helped if a large municipal parking area was available. But there's no convenient space at present, and such a remote parking would probably require shuttles. Oceanside coastal erosion will continue to eliminate parking spaces. Data on the size of the problems by sites, not just beaches, is scarce, and surveys are in process, and we'll collect additional data as I suggested. Some things have gone on. The beach administration is changing the payment methods at Whitecrest, and that's something that we certainly endorse. The enhanced police controls at the drop-off from buses at Kahunala Road and Ocean View Drive are effective for safety and traffic control. They should not be relaxed, and I understand we have some more emphasis on that this year. Data needs to be collected about bus drop-offs. This is something that caught us a bit by surprise last July 4th, as we've been told, and it's a tremendous event. We recommend that information regarding beach parking status should be made available to the public, likely on a town website posting. Parking regulations need to be enforced, okay, especially at sites other than beaches. And I don't think many people know that parking regulations exist in three primary areas, in the general bylaws, in the marina regulations, and in the zoning bylaws. Beach overflow parking is taking up other parking areas, like the pier, like the Central District, and the South Wellfleet Center, the bike trail lot, and private lots. The parking at the pier is being used by far more than just fishermen, boaters, and others using it for local needs. And there's been a growing trend of Uber and taxis taking people from the pier to the ocean beaches. We've had comments from many of the public that have suggested that if paid parking is instituted, taxpayers should be exempted. We haven't gotten there, and we're hoping to. Not to paid parking, but to analyzing it. Bayside and pond parking are not being studied because of the limited capacities and the concern for the sensitivity of the resources. Finally, the beach administration has worked with us and really come up on their own with the idea that they might move their beach sticker office up to Lawrence Road, where the temporary police department was located. If I can suggest, we'll take your questions after the results, but before I do, I need to express, or I want to express, the committee's appreciation for the many town officials, town employees, and a very helpful session with the Cape Cod National Seashore. We also thank the public who have participated in our process, and there have been quite a few, and there are those who have responded to our surveys. We plan to continue the activities as the Parking Task Force, especially as we learn more this summer, and anticipate having a report to you by the end of the year. However, we will be posting some information from tonight on our website, our webpage on the town's website. So now I think we'll go into reviewing some of the surveys that we've had. As I mentioned, there are 4 surveys, 3 of which are in process, and number 4 is just starting. So I'd like to turn it over to, since he's not a member, he's our unpaid consultant, Dr. Bruce Ketcher, to talk about this taxpayer survey. Bruce, you want?
Yeah, come up to the table. It's better for the viewing audience.
Thank you, Denny. We're just going to present some preliminary results. Were you going to hand out something or no? we'll do that later. Just some preliminary results of the taxpayer survey. As Denny said, the taxpayer survey went out with the tax bills, so it's both residents and non-residents. We haven't done extensive analyses yet on the results, so these are just the highlights of the results. And we're not presenting to you today any interpretations of what this really means or what you should do. That'll be coming. And I have to say that this is my first participation in any kind of town committee, and there's some really hard-working people on this committee. I've been very impressed. Especially you, Denny, and Wayne. So there were, of the 3,500 tax bills that went out, we got 893 surveys back. So that's about 26%, but it's really higher because people who own several properties here, probably if they filled out any, only filled out one survey. So it's even higher. Now, the question you're probably asking is 26% good? It's a population survey. Everybody was surveyed, so it's not a statistically representative sample. It's a population study. So we look at the proportions, and 58% non-residents, 41% residents. That's about what the population is in town. And just my general experience doing all kinds of surveys is, I think this is pretty good. It shows that there's some interest in this, and it's good participation. There's no other really way to judge it other than subjectively. Okay, so I'll give you the answer, the results to just a couple of the questions. How many times did you experience a full parking lot? So we asked that about the beach you go to most frequently and the beach you go to second most frequently. I'll just give you the most frequently one. So 25% said several times they experienced a full parking lot. We define that as 10 plus. 32% said many times, which is 4 to 9. 32% said a few, which is 1 to 3, and only 11% said never. So people do experience some issues. Whether that's a severe situation or not, that's something that still has to be determined by you all once we look at all the data. So all combined, several, many, and a few is 57%. So more than half experience some kind of difficulty finding a full parking lot. Okay, so what do people do when they hit a full parking lot? So we gave them a variety of choices. We asked them, if the parking at the ocean beach of your first choice is full, what do you do if it's unavailable? So 50%, I'll tell you these in order. 50% said that they agreed that they drove to a pond or a bay beach. I know my wife does that. 42% says they drove to another ocean beach. 39% say they just waited in line. 32% came back later in the day. 24% said that they don't go to the beach that day. 17% arranged to be dropped off. 14% bicycled or walked to the beach. 12% circled around until a spot became available. And just 2% said they parked elsewhere and had a car service deliver them to the beach. Okay. And then the final question we asked during the survey was overall, how satisfied they were. So the question is, overall, I am satisfied with the availability of parking at the Wellfleet Ocean beaches. So 30% either just agreed to it, 44% partly agreed, partly disagreed, they're in the middle, and 27% disagreed. So only 27% said, no, there's no problem. 27% said there is a problem, I'm sorry. And if you add the 44 and the 30, which is partly agree, partly disagree, and agree, it's 74% said they're generally satisfied. So again, the committee will have to decide, the select board will have to decide, well, how severe is that? How drastic is it? And that's going to take some judgment and some more data that we'll be analyzing.
Great. Is this going to be available, is the survey results going to be available online, or are they already? I know I got an email.
We have a copy for you of what Wayne just gave, but we're going to put it on our website, on the town
Yeah,
website,
good.
very soon.
It's very good.
And
It's surprising, yeah.
There are actually a lot more questions that we asked. I think there were 22 questions that we asked. And one of the interesting things was the people in Wellfleet were not hesitant to make other suggestions. And that was a real task, but I think that's the segue to Wayne Clough, who has looked at all of the suggestions, and so we'll go from there.
Okay.
I must say, in addition to the suggestions we got, we had one architect out there that even didn't send in the survey, just sent us a plan for the restructuring of Whitecrest Beach, which was pretty good. I mean, it was, if we get that far. But basically, so far, everyone had a chance to put in manually written comments, and to date, we've received 463 comments, of which are probably categorized. We're going to break it down to, or condense them, but it's probably 125 different topics. But I'm just going to highlight 2 or 3 here that were sort of the largest volume of consistency, I guess, as far as comments on any particular item. The number 1 item was sharks. You know, do something about the sharks. The sharks will solve our parking problem. You know, all kinds of different shark
yeah.
opportunities, but it was sharks, which could have shocked me. The second most frequent was some type of reserved area for taxpayers. We have it now, I guess, at Whitecrest to a degree on the right-hand side, but it ran the gamut that, you know, residents are saved up till noontime. After that, it's open season. Some people said get rid of the, you know, daily parkers. There's all kinds of suggestions around that, but basically it was, we're paying the taxes, they're going up. We came here, we paid the high prices for homes in order to live in this community. We want to have access to the beach. And another major concern was the bus, what's called charter vehicle situation, which we're addressing with the police department. We're keeping track of exactly trying to keep track every day of what happens, where they're coming from, how many passengers they're bringing in, and who they are in case we elect to address that problem next year. The other one was technology. They want technology in varying forms. But most prevalent was something on the web, webcams or some type of reporting so that they could look up whether there is availability and not waste their time driving down to just sit in line or just go back home. When it came to the shuttle, it was fairly evenly split. People wanting a shuttle and people not wanting a shuttle, but the ones that did not want the shuttle was a lot of times was in bold print, underlined, and exclamation points. But the...
You might explain what the shuttle...
Oh, the shuttle, yeah. The shuttle is varying forms again. We were contemplating having an auxiliary lot, such as originally it was the elementary school, but if that's used for the beach parking, we'll have to find something else. And the town would have a shuttle that would run people from that lot to the ocean beaches only, not the ponds. Big problem is Newcomb Hollow. The traffic patterns down there don't suit well for a shuttle. And other people just wanted shuttles to certain beaches, not all the beaches. Most prevalent was nothing to Newcomb's Hollow. And I think the most prevalent written response was, don't change Newcomb Hollow. You got to wait in line, you got to wait in line. But they did ask for some continuity in the rules and regulations, because some days they allow people to cut, or some days they allow people to take handicapped people down. Some days the police will come along and clear you out after you sat in line for an hour. So they just said, whatever you do, just make it consistent every day, so we know what to expect. Some people wanted, you know, queuing and how many, you know, how long is the line? Well, I mean, how long is it going to wait? You can't tell because you don't know when people are leaving. So I think that pretty much takes care of the major. We'll get this into a more concise. We just got another 200 in the other day. So, and the other issue was the beachcomber. You know, for the most part, everyone thought it was run very well, but some people think it's somewhat unfair that they can't go down to the beach with a resident sticker, but the buses can. But I think that's something we can work on, or they have worked on, and maybe it'll be resolved this year. But big expansion was certainly an issue. Some expansion was not as big an issue, and those that don't want it expanded because they want to keep the beaches the way they are. We already have enough people, and we already have enough erosion from people going up and down the dunes. So that's it for that. Do you want me to cover the business? Yeah. The other thing we did was the business survey has come in. We did send it out to about 170 people, or 70 different businesses in town. So far, we originally didn't receive a good response, so we sent out a reminder and extended the date, which was just last Friday. So I don't think they're still all in, because they can be mailed also. But we've got now up to 50, so it's about a third of the people have responded. Most of them were retailers, over 50% were retailers. 50% are either downtown or near downtown on Commercial Street. 40%, only 40% of the people that did own commercial businesses are not aware of whether they have zoning regulations for parking or not. And 60% said they were okay with the amount of parking they had for their employees, but not their not their customers. And then one of the things that's kind of surprising, well, not get surprising, only 84% would welcome a walkable parking lot for employees, walkable being less than a quarter of a mile. Anything beyond that, they said no. So it was 84% for that, and only 19% wanted something if it was remote with shuttle. That's basically because they say, the shuttle couldn't be consistent enough to meet all the demands of the various hours of their staff. And how much time do they spend in the business, at their businesses? The largest percentage, 45%, was over an hour. The one that was 100%, we asked, when do you have problems on parking on weekends and during the week? 100% was before 10 a.m. on weekends and holidays. Beyond that, it's around 30 or 40%, most of the other categories. So, there was a lot of some of the recommendations were how to deal with that, as far as limiting it and that type of thing, but that's what we'll have to do at the end of this summer, once we get all the data in. And only half of their clients complain about parking. And 70% wanted no parking fees at all. And if those that did said that residents should be free. As far as the commentary on that area, kick out of a couple of them. It's not a parking problem, it's a lazy people problem. They don't want to walk. The Holden Inn did say this is the last year they're having any weddings, in any time of year, I guess. They suggested 30 minutes at Town Hall in the mornings instead of 2 hours. Parking for merchants only. And there was a lot of discussion about the Board of Appeals has been ignoring parking when they approve new permits, as evidenced by 40% of the people don't know whether they have parking needs or not. And I think that's about it. And there was others, if they did do a shuttle bus, they wanted to include the whole town. The merchants wanted to be a downtown, to the beaches, to the art community, the whole thing. So that's pretty much the merchants so far. We should probably get some more surveys in, and we'll give you a full report then.
It's good to have the facts, or at least the people who send in their surveys facts.
Right.
Right, we've got
You
one
gonna
more.
have Joe?
Yep.
Come on, okay.
And Joe Abernathy's going to give a report on the Marina survey that we did.
The marina has 450 slips and moorings. 200 people responded to the survey after everybody received a copy of it. The parking layout is 311 spaces, including 10 handicapped spaces. Now, 60 of those are mandated by the state for trailer parking. The entire layout was designed by an engineering firm when we resurfaced the marina parking. I want to give you a flavor of the questions that were asked in the survey. How often do you park at the marina to use your boat? 32% said 2 times a week. 37% said 3 to 5 times a week. How long do you usually park at the marina? 90% said 3 to 5 hours plus. In 2018, were you always able to find parking at the marina? 63% said yes, 25% said no. How many times were you not able to find parking at the marina on several occasions? 27% responded. What do you do if you cannot find parking at the marina? 47% circle around for a while and leave. 18% try to park at the Mayo Beach lot. People we know who park at the marina are boaters and their company, charter boat crews and customers, businesses, restaurants and galleries, employees and customers. People who are trying to get a beach sticker, people who like to go down and walk, wedding attendees, and beachgoers. The marina, it's no secret, is the town's municipal parking lot. I think one of the factors that we have looked at is that when we obtain dredging completely, the demand for boaters for parking is going to increase a great deal. So there's a delicate balance there of trying to keep everybody happy, which is almost impossible. And one of the significant factors we need to be reminded of is that we have an enterprise fund. Self-supporting, we're one of the few towns that doesn't look to the town treasury to keep the marina running. So we need to always address the challenge of attracting boaters to our harbor who pay a significant amount of money for a slip and a mooring.
Great. Okay.
No, I'm all set.
Okay, well, happy to try to respond to questions, but really, we've got a lot more coming,
Yeah.
and it's taking a lot more time than I had hoped.
Well, thank you a lot, and I think it's important for people to hear what is going on and maybe to dispel negative rumors and that it's not really that big of a problem, but there is a problem. I'll also add that every town on the Cape and maybe even every town in Massachusetts and other states are all starting to have parking problems. So lots of people, lots of dogs, lots of problems.
Well, you go to the bigger cities, and parking is a big
Yeah,
part of their budget.
Yeah.
Trying to provide parking and all that, so
yeah.
it's something for us.
Boston's even doing away in areas of residential parking.
Ouch.
Yeah, so,
Madam Chair.
yes.
So two things. I've gotten feedback from people who work in the center of town. They don't live there. And they find it difficult for the 2-hour cycle in the town hall parking lot. The other thing is, as we know, we have 2 stations now for charging electric vehicles, and we've lost some spaces because of that. But it says it's working, but they're not yet. So I don't know who to talk with about that, perhaps the town administrator. That was reported to me by somebody that works right there, who said people come over and say, well, and a lot of people are coming over and wanting to charge, but you can't do it yet, although it says you can. That was 2 days ago.
Ellen, one of the questions we had were related to how long do people stay downtown, so that we could get an idea of that. It was interesting, and, you know, all these questions are subject to interpretation. But the question, and Wayne referred to this, is during the peak summer season, the average amount of time a customer spends at our place of business is less than 30 minutes was 30%. 30 minutes to an hour is another 27%. And then people going more than an hour was the remainder of 43%. So we have, we have a parking requirement that says 2 hours in town, or 4 hours at some of the slots in town halls. So the way to create more parking spaces is to create more turnover.
No, but this is for employees who work there all
Yeah.
day.
Yep.
That was the
Yep.
point, yeah.
And
It's an
that's a
issue.
challenge, and that's why we asked the question about if we had a parking space for employees someplace else. Be happy for suggestions as to where, but
Yep. Kathleen?
How many times have you met?
I meant to get that number, but it's basically twice a month ever since last August.
And do you have a budget that you're working with? Have you had expenses?
We have had expenses, and I was going to make a comment about that, and I will make a comment about it.
Thank you.
We've had one of our members pay for SurveyMonkey, and he's also paid for a lot of supplies. We really think that he deserves to be compensated for that, and so, we have no budget right now, so we're at your mercy.
I want to thank you because I think it's the work that you're doing to establish, with these surveys, the need and, crunching these numbers this way. Ultimately, at the end of the year, I hope will give us a much, bigger picture of what we need to do, to solve this problem.
We've had a real bonus, and this is a plug for when you appoint people to the committee. But
Yeah, I know that.
But Bruce Ketcher has been guiding us through SurveyMonkey, which is a tremendous tool, and we haven't really used the full extent of that, or even, the second generation of that, because we can go through and cross-tabulate questions to
That's great, yeah.
that sort of stuff. And
Thank you.
It'll be very revealing.
Justina?
Yeah, this was a great presentation. I loved having the data rather than all of our own interpretations. And they're phenomenal response rates. I think you guys probably know that, but I mean, a rule of thumb for direct response is 2%. So I think that we can have some confidence in the data given the large percentage of the base that responded.
Well, we all experience parking issues in the town of Wellfleet, and so we have a lot of experts.
I was going to say, we just don't, we experience parking issues more than we really do, right?
Yep. But it's
Okay,
interesting
good.
that, the final question on the beach survey is, are you happy with it, or are you dissatisfied with it? And overall, it was a positive response, so.
It's shocking.
Yeah, so,
Now, that is by the taxpayers. We have that same question going to the visitors.
and so everybody here, if you haven't filled out a survey, please do. This is this is how your opinion and experience counts. Okay.
Okay, thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Thank you. Are you going to meet through the summer? Are you going to meet, when's your next meeting?
The board
It
hasn't
was.
decided that yet.
Okay, all right, good. A week from Wednesday, okay. Thank you. All right, moving on, we'll now do licenses, and we have a request for a food truck, The Big Squeeze. You want to come up and introduce yourselves?
By the way, while we're waiting, I want to thank the chair for being the liaison to the parking task force.
Well, you're welcome, it's been my pleasure.
Yeah, it's a
It's
lot.
fun. Again, we all like hearing facts rather than complaints, If you're going to complain, get a fact behind you. Okay, come, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Megan Duffy. I'm one of the co-owners of the Big Squeeze food truck. This is our third year in business, but our first year where we'll be using the United Methodist Church in town as our commercial base. We will only be operating at the Wellfleet Farmers Market in this town, but we will be using the church as our sort of primary commercial location for the food truck.
So are you going to be open at the church during the day or the
Won't.
week or something? You won't, just the
prepping
kitchen?
and
Okay,
having the truck there sort of while we're prepping
Yeah.
in the afternoons.
yeah, okay. Any questions, comments about the license?
Yes, and Jean McLaughlin confirmed that after the packet was put together on Friday, your peddlers and hawkers a license from the certificate from the state did come in, even though it isn't included in the packet.
Yeah, we both applied. I got mine on Thursday. We're still waiting on the other one to come through in the mail.
And Madam Chair, and
Yes.
you need to get a sign off from the fire chief, but my memory is,
We use Orleans. We've used them for the last 2 years, and because we actually don't do any cooking on our food truck,
okay.
it's all just cold stuff.
okay,
As long as we have a working fire extinguisher, we've been kind of just passed through.
okay, good to know,
Good.
thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Kathleen?
The big squeeze, I'm assuming it's lemonade.
So we do cold pressed juices, homemade smoothies, ice pops, sandwiches, salads, a lot of sort of healthy, sort of gluten-free vegan options. We do like chia pudding, kale chips, a lot of sort of new age, hippie, lovely,
Farmers market's gonna
millennial.
love you.
Yeah, farmers market food. We actually worked at the farmers market last year. We'll be running at the Brewster's Farmers Market, Truro, and Chatham, hopefully.
And do you have some operation up in Mashpee?
No, we
Okay.
don't.
I don't know if I saw that on the application, but welcome, I'm glad you're here.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Justina?
They didn't tell you about the policy of bringing samples for the select board?
Our Monday opening next week at the Truro Farmers Market will be our opening day, so if you want to come by, get some good stuff,
Oh, God.
or just stop by the church. We always have
Yeah.
leftovers.
Yeah.
Thank you,
That's
ma'am.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
May I have
you.
a motion to approve
I
the
move to
license?
approve the common victualler and food truck license for the Big Squeeze.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Thank you. Good luck. And now we have Leaside Cafe. How many years have you been doing this?
This will be my 4th year.
Fourth.
4th year.
Do you want to introduce yourself
Sure.
and
My
say,
name's
give a
Merle
little
Van Meter.
blurb?
My name is Murrow Van Meter. I'm the owner and operator of a food truck that's been operating in Wellfleet at the Newcomb Hollow Beach parking lot for 3 years. The concession is a bid concession, goes out every 3 years. Was just submitted my bid a couple weeks ago, was the winning bid.
One
Here to
bid,
get
good.
licensed.
Great. Any questions from the board? Comments?
Comment, the sesame noodles are fantastic.
Okay.
Seconded.
Kathleen?
You're not going to do Whitecrest this year?
No, ma'am.
You did do Whitecrest last year, and, yeah, okay, gotcha.
Any other?
One more thing?
Okay, go ahead.
We got all the paperwork, thank you. And you are checked off by all the necessary departments, thank you.
So I can go to town hall and get my license and be good to go?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right on.
Right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. May I have a motion to approve the license?
I move to approve the common victualler, food truck, and business license for the Leaside Cafe.
Second?
All in favor? It's getting easier, isn't it?
Thank you very much. It is,
you.
yes.
And now we have appointment of Kurt Felix to the Wellfleet representative on the Cape Cod Water Protection Collaborate.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, good. Protection Collaborative.
I had a meeting with Kurt Felix this week, and he asked to not be reappointed.
Okay.
Wanted to step away for a bit because he's got so much on his table. Select Board member Justina Carlson has stepped up and volunteered to
Yeah,
be
that's
our
what I
replacement
thought.
if you
Okay.
so desired.
So do you want to explain to the people just what this entails, that this is the new Protection Collaborative?
It's a sort of steering committee. It's mostly Board of Selectmen from different towns out of the Cape Cod Commission, and it's a quarterly meeting.
Madam Chair.
Yes?
So, Ms. Carlson and Ms. Bacon and I were all at the same open meeting law session with KP Law. And although under the open meeting law, there's no problem with somebody on an appointing authority group, a board or a committee, or the moderator for that matter, there is an issue, and it's a statute in state law, which is why we went to town meeting, so the people on this board could be on the Herring River Committee appointed by this board. Under the conflict of interest law, you can't serve on something you appoint to. So you could go to those meetings, but we can't unless you go to town meeting and get dispensation from town meeting.
But Helen, it's almost all select board members.
So
Yeah,
this
well,
this
they
is
have
not
probably
this,
done that.
Yeah, but this is not. Is this the right name of the committee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It's
almost
all select board members.
So wait, so Janet?
Go ahead.
Yeah, just to finish. So we can't appoint you, but you can go. You can be our liaison to them. Do you get the difference? We don't want to break that statute.
I know that's how you are seeing the law, but I'm confused how that law could be a problem if it's almost all entirely made up of select board members. So I think the best thing to do would be clarify the law.
The law is very clear. You all got copies of it from me in the past. However, let's just not have a vote, but allow you to go as our representative. I have no idea what other towns do, but we did do a very careful process so that people on the board, I'm repeating myself, at town meeting,
Yeah.
we had an article that allowed members of this board to be appointed by this board to be on the executive council for the Herring River Executive Council. So you could say, I want to do it, and we could all just say, great, and not vote on it, and not appoint you.
Yeah,
You
no, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm going to also look into it, because I think if it was a law conflict, then you would not have so many select board on it.
So I would look into, or ask you or Mr. Hort to look into, and maybe Sheila can answer this question, that I think because of the 208 plan, that there are new parameters for being on this board, whereas 5 or 6 years ago, they were different. So maybe Ms. Lyons can answer this.
So if I can just give a little history here.
Could you identify your?
This is,
just in
my
case I
name is
didn't-
Sheila
yeah.
Lyons, and I am a former county commissioner and also a former representative to the Assembly for the town of Wellfleet. So as commissioner, our big mandate and my focus, and many people in the county at that point, saw that water was the problem and everybody was dragging their feet. I'm going back 10 years. So we had a board, the Cape Cod Water Protection Collaborative is a department that sprung from a blue ribbon committee that put this together, and it came from the county, and it partnered, it was close partnership with the Cape Cod Commission as far as helping direct it. And, Andrew Gottlieb was the director of the Cape Cod Water Protection Collaborative under the county, and the commission is one of the partners there. The problem was we had people on this board who were basically into their own sort of vision and power, and really nothing was getting done, and they were just appointed officials, and really nobody wanted to address this because it was going to cost money. And yes, we have a water problem, but it's really not serious, and it was getting more serious. So the county actually made the decision and passed a resolution or bylaw, ordinance, that committee was now going to be populated by the representatives, and there's a representative from every town on this board, and we wanted to have selectmen as that representative because selectmen had to make the political decisions that were necessary to get something done.
Mm-hmm.
So and how can they wrap their head around that and lead their town if they're so it was just helpful for them to be there, to understand the problem, and it really is a very beneficial group because out of that did come the 208. And that really was this group of, so now you had elected officials who were the deciders, decision makers, and experts that were coming in and giving the best information they can. So that is really what helped the progress of the 208, by putting elected officials on that committee. So I'm not sure if that supersedes a law there, or, but that is how we put that letter out and said, please send us one of your selectmen.
So I want to clarify, and
Sometimes
maybe we
it's
have to look into this. I would almost say that we're not appointing her as a representative, we are approving her as a
Yeah.
representative.
In a sense, it is that,
Yeah,
because
it's 'cause it's not an
that's what
appointment.
they're asking for.
No. That, through you?
Yes.
Quickly, I know all that, and thank you for explaining it,
Okay.
because a lot of people don't. It's great that you want to do this. It's appropriate that elected officials do it.
Well, it's also
It's-
educating them to the problem, so it helps them.
Yes, no, I
go
agree
forward.
with you, and you said that very clearly. Thank you. But we just can't vote to appoint you. In other words,
So did you
thank
hear that I
Jen.
said we're not going to vote to appoint her,
Yes.
we're going to
just
vote
gonna
to
say thank
approve
you.
her?
Or we're
gonna-
just going to say thank you.
No, we're going to move to approve her as the Wellfleet representative to the Cape Cod Water Protection. What do you think of that, Mr. Courtney? What do you think?
I don't have a
I
problem
don't, I mean, I'm not aware of this as being an appointed board. It was in the past, but I'm not so sure it is. So, we should postpone it and clarify it.
I
Because,
And Madam Chair, I will send everybody the statute tonight.
we believe you, okay? We know that there's a statute, we believe you, but I'm wondering if it's changed, because I've been going to meetings, I've been going to selectmen's meetings. Yes, I've been going to Cape Cod selectmen's meetings, and I believe that the vision of this has somewhat changed. So that's all I'm saying, that it may not be an appointment, it may be an approval. So we'll leave it at that, and we'll clarify it.
And
Call the Cape Cod Commission.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and see
but
what they
Madam
say.
Chair, the trouble is it's time sensitive, so I would be happy, I would be completely satisfied if we just said, thank you, Justina, I hope you start going, because it had to happen, I think it has to, help me out, it has to happen before the next 2 weeks, right?
The
Hasn't,
next meeting, I think, is the 13th.
so
It's
is
2
this
days.
coming up, I think,
You should go.
Kurt will be covering the 13th. I can't, I have a conflict.
okay, good, but thank
Mr.
you.
Hort, do we need a motion to postpone?
No, you can just take no action.
Okay, and we'll clarify that. Okay. Bruce Ketcher, finally, Parking Task Force appointment.
No, Shellfish.
Oh, I skipped over
Oh,
Chip,
Chip
sorry.
Benton.
Okay, sorry, looking down. So our next appointment is for Chip Benton to the Shellfish Advisory Board. Would you like to come up, introduce yourselves? And,
Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name's Chip Benton. I'd first like to thank you for considering this application. And I believe it states on the application itself that I've been shellfishing in this town continuously since 1972. And it's been my primary source for an income. I make my living doing this. I've owned and operated boats. I've leased and operated grants, and I've picked the wild for almost the past 50 years. I'd like to think that I did gain some knowledge about the resource through this activity. One of the reasons I was on the board, I don't know, about 30 years ago, for almost 15 years, I think, and one of the main reasons I got on the board back then was I was starting a family here in Wellfleet, and I wanted to try to ensure that my children were going to have the resource available for them to fish if they desired. My 5 children have all participated in the fishery. 2 of them are still active. And now I think I'd like to try to ensure that my grandchildren have the same opportunities. And that's why I'm standing here before you, so, whatever you guys consider, I can accept.
Any questions or comments from the board? Yes.
Chip, you were here maybe 9 or 10 months ago, and we appointed an alternate. This appointment would make you a full-time member of the Shellfish Advisory Board, not an alternate.
However you need me.
And, well, I'm thrilled, but who are you replacing?
Madam Chair, can I answer that,
Okay,
please?
yes.
Actually, I spoke with Barbara Austin, who called me, and first of all, thank you so much for coming back. The situation right now on the board, which has 7 members and 2 alternates, and being an alternate is honorable. I did it for years. Other people do it for years.
I understand.
But there are 2 people who have been, alternates now for years, and they are going to come to us when their terms end at the end of June, and they are going to be...
Re-up?
Yeah, just because they've been in the pipeline. But, so when I spoke with the chair, she clarified that Mr. Benton's appointment would be as an alternate. But I'm going to say it again, it's honorable.
Oh,
You may not
okay.
get to vote, but boy, you can influence
It doesn't
things.
say alternate on our...
No, it doesn't. That's
And
an oversight.
So then are there 3 alternates?
No. Mr. Benton is going to be one alternate, and at the end of June, the 2 people who are, it's complicated. Mr. Benton's appointment is going to start at the end of June. In other words, the term is going to start at the end of June, okay? Yeah, and Ms. Austin, the chair went over all this with me very carefully, so.
Okay, so, Mike?
It's my understanding that someone has resigned from the Shellfish Advisory Board,
I want to thank them.
Jim O'Connell. And so there is an opening right now, right?
It's somebody else also.
Right, but there's an opening on the board right now, and we have someone
No.
in front of us.
Through you. There is an opening on the board on after June 30th,
June 30th, okay.
okay? Right?
That's what I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. And there are going to be 2 openings, because Chip Morse is also stepping off, but he's serving his full term. So what we've got then is the 2 people who have been serving as alternates for years are going to come to us and be appointed as regulars. And Mr. Benton is going to be an alternate, an honorable alternate. And we'll hope we'll find somebody else to be an alternate with you, because it's good to have 9 people at that table.
Okay.
Madam Chair, just
yes.
one more thing. I'm not so sure that we should just automatically move someone up who's been an alternate. If there's somebody who has a wealth of experience that's applying to be a full-time member, I don't think it's necessarily like your decision alone to make that determination. We're a board of 5 people.
Oh, it's not my decision.
So how does it work? We don't automatically just move alternates to the board. If somebody else applies and we as a board see them as being a better fit for that board, we should be able to make that decision. It's not just, it's an important board, as are all boards, and I think when there's an opening, it should go to the most qualified person to be on that board. That's just how I feel about it.
Madam Chair, I completely agree with you. And it is our decision alone who gets to be a regular or alternate. However, I'm faithfully communicating what Barbara Austin, who I'm sure has spoken with Mr. Benton about this. And what we could do is we could leave it all until the end of June, right? And do all 3 of them at the same time. And I don't think people's seniority should necessarily make them automatically irregular, okay? I was just communicating what came from the chair of the Shellfish Committee,
So,
with no prejudice to
So I'm going
Mr.
to
Benton.
interrupt, and it seems to me that not frequently, but often, when people are come before us for an appointment to a board, and I've mentioned this before, and I don't know where the procedure is, but he's been here since 7 o'clock, right? It's an hour and a half. I hope you have enjoyed everything you've heard. But I think there have been other nights when you've been here a really long time, and quite often appointees. And I don't know how to communicate it to committee heads or to committees, but there has to be just kind of like with a license, that there's some kind of form where the committee says, yes, we want him as an alternate. Or the other week, someone applied and there weren't any spaces available, there weren't any seats available. So is there any, there's no procedure, I'm sure, but we really should maybe create a procedure. Committee should create a procedure for appointing someone so it's clear.
Right now, we have one opening on this committee from Jim O'Connell resigning.
Okay.
And that is a regular member. So when Courtney looks at it and says, okay, I've got an application here, Jean has processed it, we've got one opening and that's for a regular member. So that's how it came forward to you. We
Okay.
don't normally ask the committee whether they want to,
Weigh in on it?
Whether
Well,
they
so what
weigh in
I'm
on
saying is, in the past, the committees, or at least the chair, Barbara allegedly talked to Helen. We need, we need some response from the committee or from the chair. So I will do one of two things. We can all entertain a motion to postpone, or I'll entertain a motion to appoint. But somewhere this happens, this keep happening. And again, it's great to see you, but I know that you probably could have had dinner or something by now.
I would hate to see him having sat, for an hour and a half listening to us and then postpone it.
Yes.
You could make the motion effective July 1st, 2019, so that he
Okay.
wouldn't have to come back.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I would be perfectly happy, because to underline what Mike said, and believe me, I went through this and there were lawyers involved, this whole issue about 10 years ago, okay? It is our decision who we put on there. Yes, we should listen to the chair of a board or committee. I faithfully,
Okay.
not allegedly, communicated to you the fact that the two people who have been alternates for years want to step up, but we can choose one of them at the end of the month. And I would like to move that we appoint Chip Benton as a regular member of the Shellfish Advisory Board with a term beginning now, because we have a vacancy and we have gotten Jim O'Connell's
Okay,
resignation.
so just make the motion. That's what we've
I
been
move to
waiting
appoint
for.
Chip Benton to the Shellfish Advisory Board as a regular member with a term to expire on June 30th. Excuse me,
19,
Courtney,
20, 21.
did Jim O'Connell not fill out his term? Did he leave early?
What this says is what Jean gave me, so I'm guessing he has filled it out.
So in other words, no, he hasn't filled it out.
I don't know. This
I
is
don't
this-
believe he did fill out his term.
Okay,
but this
thank
is-
you.
This is exactly the word.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, because they're 3-year terms.
It's in
Okay.
your correspondence and vacancy report also.
Okay, so I move to appoint Chip Benton to the Shellfish Advisory Board for a term to expire, as a regular member for a term to expire on June 30th, 2021.
Second?
All in favor?
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Don't forget to get sworn in before you vote, please.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Where, Town Hall?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, cool.
There's a-
Thanks.
And there's a meeting on Thursday morning at 9. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank
Okay.
you, Chip.
Okay, so moving on to the Local Housing Partnership, Karen Kaminsky, for an appointment. Didn't I do you already? God, okay, we'll do Bruce. Okay. Go ahead, come on up. So we're now going to appoint Bruce Catcher to the Parking Task Force. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the audience? So I know he's been coming to quite a few of the meetings. He's been indispensable. And I know Denny's going to talk in his favor, so we can maybe make this easier and just make a motion. Anybody want to make a motion?
I move to
can, yeah.
approve Bruce Ketcher to the Parking Task Force for a 3-year term and for him to start immediately.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you. That's it.
You're sure?
You're done, Bruce.
Yeah, pause.
For sure.
Hey, in my mind, you've been on the task force for three or 4 or 5 months already, right? So that's why. Okay, Karen Kaminsky, Local Housing Partnership. No, yes, good. Any questions or comments about Karen being appointed to the board?
Comment,
Kathleen?
thank you.
Are you a year-round resident?
Yes, I am. I live at 34 Somerset Avenue and here in Wellfleet.
Great, thank you.
Any questions or comments from the audience? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move to appoint Karen Kaminsky to the Local Housing Partnership for a 1-year term.
Second?
All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, okay, so this comes up every year, and this is going to be the year that I am for this. So for the audience, we have warrants, bills, different things that need to be signed, and traditionally it's been signed by all 5 selectmen before it could be approved and sent out. And I could ask Courtney or Jean McLaughlin, who's not here, Mr. Hort, that I'm assuming you would prefer one signature for the sake of
It
speed,
is your
time.
call.
Yeah.
There are some times when, because of your schedules, you're not able to get in, and
Until
just,
Monday or so, yeah.
I think maybe 2 weeks ago, we had a situation where on the morning of when the warrant, we normally would send out the checks, we didn't have enough signatures yet. So that's why this was brought forward at this time, so. But
Yeah.
it is totally your decision.
So I would think that if we do choose to vote for this, that people would continue going in and looking at the warrants, that we would still be notified that they're there, and people would still go in so that they're aware of what's going on. Are there any comments from the board?
Yes. So the cool thing about what we passed at town meeting for this is, let's say the person, and we could rotate this every year, and I'm willing to do it for the first year, by the way, because I'm always around. But the thing is, if the person who was delegated for the year is sick or in Honolulu or something and can't sign it, you just get 3 signatures as usual. All you need is 3. I mean, it's nice when everybody signs. But this is just for warrants, like for payrolls. It's not for contracts. It's not for heavy-duty stuff.
Right.
And there have been some real sad stories about it, which is why we've changed it. You know, people not being able to get their checks, payroll.
Right. Okay, so may I have a motion? Any comments from the audience? May I have a motion?
I move to designate a member of the Select Board to be the sole signer of warrants.
Second.
All in favor?
And-
Do we want to designate someone now?
I think that would be the process, is then you
Yeah.
would
I
pick
do
a
too.
person, so.
I'm willing.
I move to designate Helen.
Is there a second?
Second.
I mean, does anybody else want to do it? It's just
No.
a chore.
I have it built into my schedule on my calendar.
Okay, you do it.
No, I'm just saying that,
So you can be the alternate.
I'm going to have to undo that, but yeah.
Well, there's
When
a,
you look
there's
at my
a,
calendar,
Oh,
okay.
those 2 Fridays are highlighted warrants to sign. So,
You'll still have to come get your packet.
yeah.
So there's a
Up
there's a,
signature.
hold it, there's a motion on the table,
But-
and it was seconded, so do you want to rescind it, or do you want to,
I-
what do
I-
you guys want to do? It's really,
I move to rescind it because Kathleen wants to do it.
No, that's not what I was saying. I was just making a comment.
Okay.
I didn't get a
So-
chance to make a comment before we
Madam Chair?
did this,
Yes.
but yeah.
Could we designate 1 select board member and 1 backup or alternate?
No.
No? It has to be
It's
just
1
1.
or
okay.
3.
So Mike, do you, okay, I mean, this is
Let me do
really
it.
minor.
Let's just
I'll
call
do
the
it.
vote, Jen.
Let's
Yeah.
just do it.
Okay, all in favor?
I can vote
Okay.
for myself. Okay.
So Helen is our designated.
So what will
driver.
happen on this is that we still hope that each one of you will come in and sign the warrant,
Yeah.
as you do regularly. But if we get on a Tuesday morning and we don't have 3
Yeah.
signatures, if we have Helen's signature, we're good to go. We'll still leave it there for you, for everyone else to sign it so that you can look through it. But as long as we have Helen's signature on it for the next year, we're authorized then to release payroll and to release the
Yes,
check.
and
So-
I need a phone call and an email, okay?
A phone call too?
Yes,
Okay.
because email
Okay,
doesn't
okay,
always
don't
work.
explain. Okay, good. Better be good at this.
Hey,
Yeah, I
well,
am.
Now Helen's responsible for everyone getting paid.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
okay.
wait a minute.
I'll call
Okay.
her first if we don't get paid.
Okay, so moving on to discussion of town-owned property. So this was not in my idea, where it says on our paper, it says discussion of use of town-owned property without permission. But I get what that means. So I think Kathleen asked to have this on, to be discussed at one point. Nope, somebody also asked, but.
I did.
You did. And this is really about the dogs and the parking and everything, where everybody complains or has an opinion about what people are doing on town-owned property. We're not going to make any votes or decision tonight. I'd like to suggest we do a working meeting, but to clarify it, because we have Max, representative from Max and Seraldi's here. If you think about it, people using town-owned property to make money for any kind of personal gain or just to better their business, every shell fisherman uses town-owned property, or just about, right? And they pay $100 a year? 25 a year.
We're going to change
Okay, well, that doesn't matter, that's in the present moment. So we have people using town-owned property without the expectation of the town greatly benefiting from it. Every time you go get a cup of coffee and you sit on a town bench, you're eating and drinking and using town property. You get a sandwich and you go to Mayo Beach, or you get a sandwich and you go to the beaches, and you're using town property after you buy some food. So, and I'll open it up, but I talked with Hillary, Board of Health and Conservation Commission department head, director, and I want to clarify on video, so that everybody can hear, that the beach abutting Max at the beach is town property, but she is totally okay with them using it. It is available to every person in town to sit at those tables, to use the beach, to go there and do anything. Seraldi's, their dumpsters are not on town property. People have been saying that for months. Hillary said they are not on town property. So we get a lot of comments, and they're just not true. Do you want to get up and say something? Don't tell me that they are on town property. Are they? Hillary actually looked it up on the map. Or do you have new dumpsters?
Our lot is
Who
technically
are you,
town.
please?
Oh, sorry.
My
yeah.
name's Michael Ciraldi.
Thank you.
Our lot is technically the town's property.
Yes, that's
Yes.
right.
Our dumpsters are in our lot. They've been in the same spot in the lot for 40 years.
So maybe that's what you meant, that they've been there forever and that they're not a problem.
That sounds good.
Sounds good? But we'll open it up to the board. And we will open it up in a second, okay? This is,
Yeah.
all right. So what I would, again, we're going to talk about this because this could probably go on quite a bit. I was thinking that there could be an agreement between anyone who uses town property, and again, I want to stress that just because you're getting a sandwich or a meal and going to sit at picnic tables, Hillary also pointed out that Max supplies the picnic tables and keeps them clean. The DPW doesn't have to do it. They take them in the winter. So it's really not a burden to the town. Your dumpsters are not a burden to the town. Board of Health, Conscom has no issues with them. So that maybe there should be an agreement not a contract, but an agreement, and this is my first proposal, I don't know how our town administrator feels about it, just acknowledging that this is being used, this is like, you can't tread on the grass and pull up the grass, that you have to respect the water rights, the water mitigation, things like that. And that could be for just about everybody who uses town property. I don't think there's that many. So I'll open it up for the board for their comments. Helen had her hand up first.
Thank you, no surprise. Thank you. So, two things. Yeah, it's nice, those tables. I've never felt that I couldn't use them if I had a box lunch sandwich. Nobody's been unfriendly to me. It's nice that the tables are out there and they have, parasols and, umbrellas. And also, there's a nice recycling and trash thing, question through you, to the representatives of, Bell Vernon, Inc., whatever. So do you also, you take care of the trash on town property there, or are those recycle and garbage things on your property or town property?
The trash containers are on town.
Okay, that was Mac Hay who said the trash containers are where? Are on town property, but, okay, but you take care of them. Okay, so that's sort of win-win. What does concern me in both cases is I've just learned that I guess part of that lot, that what used to be Al Graham's bar when I was a teenager, which Ciraldi is in, is the parking lot through you to Mr. Ciraldi. You're saying that's owned by the town, the parking lot?
Yeah.
But not the building?
No.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know that. So what concerns me here in both cases is, guys, you need to have a formal agreement. It's a version of what the chair said. You need to have a formal agreement with us. There needs to be liability addressed, and it needs to be in place yesterday. In other words, great, you want to use it, but we can't be allowing you to use it like that unless it's covered and permitted, okay? And we went through a whole thing at Newcomb Hollow with Leaside a couple of years ago where they wanted more tables. They wanted a table right there at the top of the parking lot, and we said no, okay? So if you're going to have this stuff there, and it's win-win, thank you, we need it to be formally, legally agreed on paper, signed.
So just may I ask a question?
Yes.
Where does the Marina Enterprise jurisdiction end, and where does the town's begin?
Well, let's ask, are you talking about the Marina or the Marina Enterprise?
No, not
Not the
no,
Picards?
the town,
Okay.
like the town, Marina, the town. Because we approached the harbor master a number of years ago about the dumpsters, because it is town property, which has always been used in some capacity by that location. And we basically did not get a formal agreement, and I would kind of like to not talk about that till we get, talk to Mike, because he's been on vacation, and I haven't been able to talk about this when this came up. But, there was always an agreement. We didn't just do it. It was, right, and I agree with you that we should have something that's more formal.
So that's kind of what I want to start.
Right,
We're not going to do it tonight.
But we did ask somebody,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
we were given permission.
Yeah.
And now it just needs to be, as we are in this age, a
Yeah.
bit more formal.
And we'll develop something if that's how the board wants to go. Yes. So who had their hand up first?
I did.
Okay.
I agree with our chair that we'll be taking this up in a working meeting, but I actually have a lot of questions because our town has grown and our town administrator is looking for more tax revenue from fees, and I assume your restaurant's profitable because it's always busy there. So I think that there's a number of issues and questions I'd like to see answered. I mean, you guys are a great asset to the community, and people love to go down there to the restaurant. But you're a businessman, and I'm sure that you also know that you're getting a good deal, and then maybe we kind of want to work through this. It isn't the 80s anymore, or the 90s. And even when we were looking to purchase space on the waterfront, everything's gotten so expensive, so that land's valuable, more valuable than it was in the past. So it's just kind of hoping to have an open discussion in our working meeting about, are our policies consistent? Are they fair to the business owner? You guys want predictability. I'd love to hear from you, from you what you think is fair and so forth. It's nothing more than an open discussion at this point.
Kathleen?
We do have a policy with regard to use of town property. Anybody that comes to us for a surfboard lesson, yoga on the beach, we have a policy and I think a nominal fee for them to do business on town property. My concern with the entities that are using town property in the marina vicinity are issues of liability. It is town property, and if something went wrong, we're the ones that are on the hook for it. So that needs to be sorted out between the businesses and the town itself.
You going to
Madam
address
Chair.
this, Suzanne? Suzanne's getting, wait,
Okay.
sorry, I didn't see you.
In addition, excuse me, in addition to the use of town property, something I realized last summer, there's nothing in writing for people who ask for permission, are denied, and do it anyway, which happened last summer.
Really?
So 3 giant buses and all
right,
their
yeah.
passengers and all their bicycles appeared and parked at
That's
the
right,
middle of the
yeah.
marina in the middle, busy weekend in August last summer. So I would like, when you have your working meeting, to think about the penalties for failing to abide by either the granting of the permission or the denial of permission to use town property in the future. Because we're getting more crowded and people are getting more aware that they're not going to do anything to me. I'm just going to come and do it. So I think that would be helpful for people to know that there are consequences.
Good. Do the Picards have anything to say?
No, Alfred,
Yeah, you have to get up.
Please.
I know.
We have a public parking lot being used by one business. There's no sign stating that it's public.
You mean the parking, oh, okay.
Well, excuse me.
I'm sorry, I can't
All right, now you have to
hear.
get up. Now you have to get up and do it, yeah. Okay, I can hear him, yeah.
My concern is Helen wasn't even aware that we had a public parking lot there. So obviously, everybody didn't know that, unless I'm confused with what Helen said.
No, that's.
So, I mean, we have a building that basically the overhang of the roof is the size of its lot. So we should have public parking signs around that building. We should not negotiate out to lose parking because we're trying to get it back. That's my concern. Whether there's 1 or 12 businesses there, it's still a public parking lot.
Is there, I mean, I park there sometimes. Is there an issue? I know probably when there's a play going on, there's definitely an issue of parking. It's,
There's an issue every day at the marina, so the people at the marina should be aware that they can go there. That's all. They go to Mayo Beach, they go right back it because it looks just like a business parking lot.
okay, all right, I hear what you're saying.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to comment on that?
I would comment that there's nothing saying that it's not.
Not,
It's not my
Yeah.
building, I own a building, so it's not really, I don't have much to do with that. What I would say that if it's going to be treated like a public parking lot, then it should be maintained like a public parking lot. I pay fees to maintain the grass in that lot, and, I've never seen a street sweeper through the lot since I've been there, and I know my landlord hasn't seen one in 40 years, so if it's going to be treated and advertised as a public lot, it might as well be treated and advertised like a public lot by the town as well.
good point. Who had their hand up over
I
over
did,
there?
I kind of forget what I was going to.
It could be what?
It'd be all good if
Oh.
they did, that'd be awesome. And we wouldn't have any conflicting, business with the
Yeah.
So I think it would be a symbiotic relationship. I don't think.
Well, so that's what I kind of want to get across to, yeah, that really it's just getting information out, talking, and you were going to say a symbiotic relationship, that we really should all be working together to make it more smooth for everyone, from tourists to locals to employees. That's really, I think it is. I'm not so sure everybody knows that, but yeah, that's why we're having an open talk about it, so everybody knows that. I'm not sure who knows it. Mike?
The use of town property, though, is not necessarily, this wasn't about parking, it's about dumpsters and picnic tables, whatever. Can't those things just be handled through a traditional use of town property application?
Yeah, that's
and
what
that's
I'm
it?
saying. There
And we don't
should be
have to
an
come up with
agreement,
anything
yeah.
special?
Well, and mention liability or include.
But we talk about that when there's use of town property applications anyways, and we
surpluses and all
require
that.
certain things like
Yeah.
that. So, we don't need to do anything special, just have them fill out a use of town property application for those specific things and bring it before the board, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but I think too that we can talk about it in a meeting to take Ciraldi's suggestions, liability to include, in some agreement. Yeah, I mean, I would just like, I've got 5 things listed that we have an agreement. Justina mentioned fees like we would use for town property, but where do you even begin for a fee for something like that?
For what?
Liability, for everything from parking to this, we're not going to talk about it tonight. Somebody else mentioned it, so I'm not really sure what the fees would be for. Failure, this is not concerning them, but Suzanne mentioned somebody who was denied a license, and then they just did it anyhow. So there's just nothing written down, and I don't want a big legal thing. I think it would just be a good clarification.
Sure.
Yeah.
I agree with Mike, and this should happen, sure, let's discuss it at some point, anytime. I think it's too important to discuss in a working meeting
Well,
in
it'll be
case
brought
people,
back.
and yeah, in other words, we can bring it back. But meanwhile, right now, I would like to make a motion that we have these fine business people covered for the summer as well as the town, and that we do a normal use of town property agreement with insurance mentioned so that everybody's protected, including the business owners, because this is June. And we can discuss the fee, and I think that one of the reasons I was asking questions about, does Bell Vernon Inc. take care of the trash and so forth, is the town is also getting something from this. And that's important. And we can consider that when we talk about a fee, but I need this, in my opinion, this should be covered right now, as I said yesterday.
May I speak
Yep.
to the point? If the main concern is liability, the way that the arrangement currently is those picnic tables have been donated to the town. They are town-owned property. There's a higher level of negligence that has to be involved if there is an incident against a municipality versus a private business. So as the arrangement is right now, I'm more covered if something happens. The town is more covered because it would probably get cloudy and messy. So to address the liability issue, it's a better arrangement right now because it's town property. It's just like the street corner. It's just like anything else that you have in town. If you don't maintain it, then you're found negligent because you're not maintaining it, then you're found negligent. We're obviously maintaining that area, providing a safe environment. That's our end of the deal.
However, Madam Chair, the issue is, did the town at town meeting accept those tables? In other words, is this property that has been documented as a gift to the town? Probably not. So it just needs to be put on paper and signed by the parties, okay? It's not that complicated. And this has been very productive. And it's really great to be able to use those tables.
I agree.
Mike, I think, had his hand up.
Yeah, it's not just about liability, too. It's also just about everyone has to put an application in for use of town property, and just because it's been used in the past doesn't mean we shouldn't address it and have people request to use town property. I don't think it's a big deal, and I don't think it's going to be a big deal going forward, but I think the process is there, and that's part of the issue, is just following process, yeah.
Okay, Justina?
I'm going to have to be more blunt by what I mean about fees. The value of town land has really gone up over the last few decades, and the area where the picnic tables sit is very valuable beachfront. I'm sure that the bookstore restaurant would love to go put tables up on town land too. And so I feel I have a fiduciary responsibility to ask, is the town being fairly compensated for the use of that land? And generally, when businesses make a profit off of town land, something like a lease wouldn't be out of line. Right now, the town's not making anything. And I might be the minority here, but I do think that it's a fair question to ask. And that's what I wanted to go over in a working meeting and, not put everybody on the spot. I don't see it as a routine application. I think it's a sort of taking a step back and saying, what's fair when businesses like the Beachcomber have a parking lot and so forth. These have become very valuable pieces of real estate.
How's the rest of the board feel about that?
We have a very complicated contract worked out with the Beachcomber for their parking. And I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry, but I think we need to direct the town administrator, ask the town administrator to draw up some acknowledgement of this physical situation as we go into the summer that covers it in some way. And also, through you to Mr. Hay, did the town ever vote to accept those tables?
I think you just said no.
Before the selectmen recognized the tables, was there an official vote by the town? I'm not entirely sure, but there have been a number of discussions starting even prior to 1984, because there's been this activity going on there since 1974.
Yeah, so can we just have this on paper somewhere and have it acknowledged formally so that it's settled for you and settled for us? That's where
Mr. Hort, do you feel like you can
I think
get
I have
something that
direction
would
here.
be adequate? And this will be, again, we'll talk about it more, see where it leads, but, I think it is important. I think, did Mike bring it up? Did Mac bring it up? That these businesses, all these businesses represented by everybody, if there weren't businesses down at the marina, you may say, oh, good, well, there'll be nothing. But all the businesses down there bring a lot of people in, a lot of joy. And those people then either come back, they buy a house, they bring their friends. So town government has a symbiotic, but they also have a responsibility to help businesses, and businesses help the town. And I'm going to say that everybody here is very generous to the town. I think you guys did a benefit. Did you do a benefit for somebody recently?
We do benefits.
All the time, yeah. There's the restaurants and everybody does a lot of work. So you've got to kind of take that in consideration too. So
One more, if I can. We have a policy in determining how much of a fee we can charge for certain things. And I have it up here. There's 5 different criteria that we can use in determining the fee. So it's not out of line. I think Justina's right that we should look at,
we'll
what's
look at
a
it.
reasonable fee for what types of things are brought forward and have a discussion about that.
Through
And
you?
how it
Yeah,
fits
but
in our policy.
otherwise we can wrap it up. But I want to
Yeah,
see if the
but
audience has any other comments.
But, Madam Chair, at our next meeting, let's please have applications for use of town property, And you can look at the fee schedule criteria, and we can talk about it and determine a fee, and then it'll be settled for at least a year, okay? And
Well, so I think we have to have a working meeting before that.
not for my money. I think it's very simple, and I think that the only thing that bears discussion in public, we don't have to do it at a working meeting. It's a simple use of town property issue, and we can look at it carefully when we receive the application. We've already discussed it a lot and gotten a lot of information tonight.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Helen, respectfully, I'm sorry, I don't agree with you. I have serious concerns, and I'd like to go over them in a working meeting and get the other board members' input.
So
I agree with
I would like to leave it at asking Mr. Hort to get some agreements going. Mike, what were you going to say?
I second what Justina says.
Okay.
Why can't we do it at our next meeting? What is the difference between, this is not a general policy thing. The policy is outlined very carefully and well in the use of town property that Michael just referred to. We should all read it.
Well, yeah.
I think we all have the right to put topics on the agenda at a meeting,
Absolutely.
including a working meeting.
Yeah, no, absolutely, but, you know, let's.
And then after that, we can discuss it at the regular meeting. But I'm really just asking if we could put this on a working meeting
Okay.
agenda.
Yep.
And to have it covered by video, because that really needs to happen.
They all are covered by video.
The last one, our last working meeting was not covered by video.
I think.
No,
which
and
one? All
Hillary
right, okay,
gave the
all right.
best clarification of the
Wasn't
208 plan and the wastewater
Okay.
comprehensive
Okay.
thing that I've ever heard, and it is
Okay,
not on
okay.
video.
Point taken. Any comments from the audience? Any advice from the audience? Okay, good. So, good, all right. I hope you guys are satisfied, and again, keep communication going and all of that. All right, moving on to the Select Board's appearance in the July 4th parade. Who on the Select Board wants, last year we used a police vehicle. Does anybody want to be in the parade and be in a car? The Chamber of Commerce is
Yeah.
competing with you. They asked if we wanted it. So I couldn't, did I get to use the siren? A little bit. Oh, no, it didn't work or something. There was something weird. Yeah.
The X-Nate on the siren.
Yeah. So who wants to be in a vehicle in the July 4th parade?
Madam Chair, so last year,
Thank you.
I got to be, you know,
Okay,
where
just
the
say
judge-
yes or no. I want to be in a police vehicle or a Chamber of Commerce vehicle.
I want to be in neither. I want to.
Okay, good. You don't wanna be in it. Yeah.
Excuse me. I don't want to hurt the feelings of my other Select Board members. I love being with you all. Here I am at the table. I smile when I see you in the street, but I really like watching the parade.
Fine, just say no, thank
And
you.
I am going to be standing
Really?
on the side,
Point of-
waving at you
yeah.
when you go by.
Helen, we're here for over 2 hours now, and we still have a long way to go, okay?
How do the rest of the people feel?
Just say yes or no, I'd like to be in a vehicle with the other selectmen. That's
Or not.
Or not. That's
I'd like
what
to
yes
be
or
in a
no
vehicle with
means.
the other selectmen, and I like it that Helen's up on the stand representing us.
Thank you.
So yes, you want to be in one, or you don't?
Yes.
Okay, Kathleen, you going to walk
I'd
again?
like to accept the invitation of the Chamber of Commerce because they're going to have us on a float, and we are the heroes. That's
Oh,
what they're trying to
God.
say. So if you want to go to the
I like-
police car and the sirens.
I like being enclosed in a
I
police
would
car and
prefer
hidden.
the,
Okay.
the float with the
I
Chamber
didn't hear
of
what they wanted
Commerce.
to do yet. Mike, what do you want to do?
The
I've spent enough time in police cars when I was a teenager.
The theme this year is
Superheroes.
superheroes.
I know. Yeah.
So they are honoring the Select Board by,
Asking us, yeah.
yes,
Oh,
so
should
I'd
we
like
be
to
on the
accept
float?
their invitation.
So how do you feel? You don't mind, Chief, do you?
I don't mind if you don't use my car.
And you, and Mike, do you want to be on the float?
I'll be on the float.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, I'll wear a superhero costume and stand in the audience. I can do that.
I'm walking alongside the float with my superhero dogs.
Okay.
hot last year.
I didn't get
Yeah,
hot.
it's going to be hot.
It's fine.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, that was kind of easy. All All right, so personnel contracts and memorandum of understanding approvals.
Okay, thank you. So in the personnel contracts, you have discussed and approved these in executive session, but you also need to approve them in open session. If you don't have any questions on this and want to, you could make one single motion to approve the MOU for Teamsters, firefighters, police chief, police lieutenant, fire chief, and DPW director. So it's up to you how you want to do that.
Any comments from the board? Kathleen?
On Article 11, holidays, are we adding the day after Thanksgiving to their contract?
Yes.
And why?
We have done that for the WEA, and the Teamsters Union asked to have the same agreement.
So I have a problem with that, in that it will mean that the transfer station will be closed.
It doesn't necessarily mean that. If we want to have it still open, the staff members that we would ask to man the transfer station could take a holiday at a different day of the week.
Okay, and the only reason I bring that up is because, you know, you've got a lot of residents and
Yes,
non-residents
absolutely.
and visitors here, and having it closed the day after holidays tends to be.
I can give directive to the DPW director that we will
Okay.
still want to see it open. So.
Outside of that, I've read the whole thing, and it's all, I have no problems.
Any other comments?
I'm fine with it.
Would someone make a motion approving all of them and listing them, or however they want to do it?
I move to approve the MOU for the Teamsters Union, the Firefighters Union, the Police Chief, the Police Lieutenant, the Fire Chief, and the DPW Director, and authorize the Select Board to sign the contract.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
And through you,
Thank you.
thank you, Town Administrator, for getting it all done.
So what you will see is tonight we will ask you to sign the MOU, and then at your convenience, we will have the contracts for you in your office, in the Select Board's office. We didn't want to put them all on the agenda to have
Good.
all of that paper. So
Thanks.
the MOUs will have you sign, and then the contracts that will incorporate the MOU information will be in the office for you to sign.
And through you, just to clarify, I can't sign that. I'm only signing warrants. I know we all got that, but in other words, we all have to sign these
No, I
things.
get that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Better to, you know.
Okay, moving on to select board reports. Anybody have something to say?
Yes, I'm a bit peevish because I asked to have only a bit.
In
because-
general or about something specific?
No, not general. I'm never peevish generally. Let me get to the point. I emailed the chair and the TA because I wanted to be able to give a quick report about the situation with 1440 Chequesset Neck Road. And
Gee, I didn't get that email. You
Yeah.
requested to
Yeah, I
report
always-
on it tonight?
just to, brief you, but also so that the letter that the Select Board wrote and we
Right.
all signed,
Yep.
gets put into the public record, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I can't do that because it's not on the agenda. So I'm just mentioning it, and I'm going to bring it up.
So why doesn't that fall under select board reports? We had
Because
that
I
in
thought
general,
we-
so that you could report on it.
Well,
and
I
then-
was told,
Oh,
I was
all right.
told before that just as the town administrator has to have his subjects, that any one of us that wanted to make a
Okay.
report had to. What do you think? Is that, I don't know, Dan. Yeah, we should, if we want a specific
it-
subject, we should,
If you want it added to the next agenda so you
Yeah,
can give it
it's
as a
okay,
report, we
right.
can do that.
yeah, and, it can go into correspondence as public record already.
Okay. So I was kind of under the assumption that select board reports, I know if you want to give a lengthy report, that you would have to have it on the agenda, but it's also an opportunity for people just to talk about a meeting they went to or something they learned. Am I correct in that?
I thought,
Yeah.
that was the
Okay.
idea.
Yeah, but it has to be just like the TA has Dan Hort has to, he
Well,
has his
so I'm
report.
saying, so what I'm saying is that we haven't been doing it that way, that it's just falls under select board reports without each item being listed.
I think I agree with the town administrator that we should list it, because
Talk
there
in the
could be
mic.
some Q&A that went on, and people might want to
Right.
be present for it, so we should list it, unless it's an emergency.
Okay, so do you want, everybody should list it if they want to give a report?
If they just want to give a report, I don't believe it has to be listed. If it's a report that you want to give and have discussion about it, I
Right,
think it should
then
be
it has to be listed, yeah.
Ah,
Does that make sense to you?
it makes.
It's like, it's
I'll
like,
do
it's like
whatever
an open session, public comments announcements, so that's all it is,
anybody- Okay.
okay?
And if I want Q&A, or if one of us wants Q&A for a report, we can list it.
Right, right. Okay, are there any select board reports? I would just say that last Tuesday, there was a meeting in Chatham with the Secretary of Economic Development and Housing, and it's very similar to other open meetings we've had with other towns and other town officials. Very informative. Later in the afternoon, Dennis Murphy and I went to a dredging meeting in Orleans at the library, and the gentleman who's in charge of dredging was there, and so were all the other towns on the Cape that need dredging.
Who's in charge of dredging? In the town of Orleans or for Cape Cod, or I don't know what
Oh,
you're saying?
for the state. This is all for the state. These are state secretaries and assistant secretaries that came down for these meetings to hear what different towns needed and different towns wanted. And there are probably 7 other towns, or 7 towns total in dredging. And each person kind of said what they needed, what kind of dredger, whether it was deep water dredging, whether it was an estuary, Pamet River, things like that. So it was just everybody kind of talking about what they need, and Jack Eunice from the Cape Cod Commission was there, and there's,
He's the county.
oh yeah, okay, sorry, County Commissioner, just to see what people need, and it was the same with housing. One of the things that came up in the bigger session with all the other towns on economic development was to have more education, be it starting in the high schools and EMTs, business management, different programs. People from Cape Cod Community College were there to kind of hear what people are looking for to help people make a more substantial living here or help them get on their way to improving their business. CDP was there. It was really good. It was just a very good informational meeting.
Thank you for going.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So if we're going to do this, then there's another thing, which is the chair, the new head, the new director of the Marine Fisheries Advisory Commission actually reached out to Wellfleet about the fact that we were concerned, very concerned, about the overharvest of horseshoe crabs, and the Shellfish Committee actually applied for a moratorium on it and were rejected. There's a new director, and the latest is that Jared Silva and Dan McKiernan from the Division of Marine Fisheries want to come down and take another look at this. It was a huge project, and it was in 2009. And the rejection has meant that we're in even worse shape than we were. So I wanted to report that. I've reported the 140 Chequesset Neck Road thing. There was a site visit, and then there was a Conservation Commission meeting. And then, I can't remember, there's something else. I'm brain dead.
Well, and remember, too, that a lot of the things we do get the emails forwarded to us, like from the National Marine Fisheries.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you've forgotten something, maybe we've gotten it. Anyone else?
Just quickly, I'm going to go to Shellfish Advisory tomorrow. Helen and Mike, you may know more about this than I do, but there's a couple of officials coming down to talk about the privatization bill that's
Oh, yeah.
in the State House.
It's, forgive me,
Yeah.
it's Thursday at 9.
Sorry, Thursday. Yeah,
Thursday
thanks,
at
Helen.
9 a.m., and you should all have gotten the agenda forwarded to you.
I got it somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you going to be there, Helen?
Yeah.
Good.
Town hall?
I'll be there also.
No,
I think it's
it's
here.
at, hold on, it's at the library.
Yeah.
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 So I'll mostly be listening. I think
Yeah,
Helen
I'm
and
gonna
Mike,
be-
you guys are more up to speed than I am, but I guess it's gotten more serious, this bill. So they're coming down, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, to try to see if they can get us on board.
We'll see what they want. We don't know.
Okay,
Okay.
good, thank you. So can we move on to Town Administrator's report?
The thing I would just
Questions,
highlight
comments?
here is, I also attended the Economic Development Strategy meeting in Chatham, and then the following day I had lunch with Jack Units, who's the Barnstable County Administrator, to talk specifically about dredging. He had a conversation with you and Dennis the night before, and then he and I talked about it at lunch. They're looking for ways that they can help us with dredging. One of his recommendations that he felt comfortable making at this point was it probably makes sense for Wellfleet to buy its own dredge, and then for the county to actually furnish the staff that could run the dredge. What he suggested is that there might be another community fairly close by to us that when we get to a stage of maintenance dredging, that we might do our maintenance dredging one year and the other community might do it the next year. So we could kind of split the costs and almost make the cost of the dredge, split it 50-50. He thought we could save a significant amount of money to do it that way. So we'll be bringing that forward to the dredging task force at their next meeting.
Yep. Anything else with, oh, I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
I believe Eastham and Orleans share a dredge right now that they use to dredge their harbor.
I thought they were fighting over it or something.
They
Or
might be,
They're
but-
fighting, they're arguing, I shouldn't say fighting, arguing over whose land is where, whose water is where, or something, yeah.
Sure, but I think they own a dredge together, the two towns,
Interesting.
and they
They
dredge
didn't-
Rock
they didn't
Harbor. and-
mention that.
Yeah, it's not the type of dredging that we need in this harbor right now, because we have such, it's a toxic
Big deal.
situation with the
Yeah.
But
black
Janet,
mayonnaise.
Okay, Kathleen?
I know this isn't an agenda item, but I did get that email from you, Dan, and I remember hearing at an earlier task force meeting with the dredging committee that, even if Wellfleet wanted to buy a dredge, there isn't one out there for us to purchase, so we better start doing some,
It's going to take some work, yeah, and it's going to take some time.
get in the queue here,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'll also just add that at the dredging meeting in Orleans, the Assistant Secretary who handles dredging, he's aware of state, county, town working together, and that's really what, under the Baker administration, they want. They want all the towns working together, so,
Collaborative, yeah.
yeah. Okay, how about topics for future discussion? And I would like to say, I think it would be good to have a working meeting first for the host community agreement, that we got all that information from town council, and for
Right.
us to reread, put it together, and come up with the suggestions that we want.
Good
So do we
idea.
want to do that in a working meeting?
Yeah.
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 Everybody agree?
Yes.
So we will let Michael decide with Mr. Hort what days and tides work well for you for a working meeting?
Oh, yeah, okay. This week, are we doing it?
Not this
no,
week,
no,
I'm,
no, no,
I'm
no.
actually not here this week.
I mean,
I'm
yeah,
leaving
okay.
at 5:30 in the
Well,
morning.
you just tell me what week, and then I can,
When's our next?
Any week, really any week, because this is something that's not going to be pressing for a
coming up.
while, and we can just postpone any post agreements or changes to that. So,
How
You
about-
don't have to set the date now, you can
Yeah.
just give it some thought.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I-
just email them email them with when it would be good for you. Afternoons are usually good for me, I should add, like early morning, I usually teach, so.
On a minute,
Madam
so,
Chair?
So we don't have to decide now. We agreed. We're just going to, you and Michael can look at the tides, and then you can tell
how
Dan.
about Monday, the 24th, the high tide? There's only one tide in the middle of the day at around noon, and, the high tide is, here, and we could do it like at 3, would that,
Yeah, I could do like 3:30.
3:30?
On when?
On Monday, the
24th.
24th? I
Um,
have a lot of stuff
okay.
coming up.
We do
so-
have a
Yeah,
meeting
that's fine.
then the
I-
next, we do have a meeting then the next day as well, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we all go check our calendars at home, but tentatively
I
say,
don't think we should do them on a week that we have our regular
I
meeting.
agree,
all right,
yeah.
okay, fine.
Exhausting.
Yeah,
Say no
it's
more.
too much.
Madam Chair?
So let's do the.
I'll
yeah.
send out some
So
recommendations.
as,
of what
so
will
as
work
I
with Mike.
said, Mike and Dan can go over this, over the tides, and come up just with something in the afternoon that's usually
it.
mid.
Sorry,
mid-noon?
guys, so on.
Ellen, can you hear me? Are you hearing me?
I am.
Then I'm saying wait, and Michael and Dan, they'll do it with you. They'll then pass it around to all of us to make sure we can make that day.
Okay.
So it takes it all out of our hands right
Madam
now.
Chair, quickly, Helen, if you want me to do the minutes for the working meeting, so it's not 3 sets of minutes a month for you, you don't have to decide now.
That's nice. That isn't my reservation, and I would be happy if we both did them. In other words, all of us can look at the minutes. But that isn't my reservation. It's
Just making
simply
sure.
that as many important things happen at a working meeting as happen at our regular meetings, but we don't have hearings, and we don't have licensing board stuff, and we don't have use of town property. So that's the reason working meetings, in my mind, are useful, is because.
Yeah, we discuss, yeah.
But they shouldn't be more informal, in my opinion. Because
Shouldn't be what?
they shouldn't be more informal.
I don't think
should-
they are.
Yeah, they should be careful.
But,
They're regular select board meetings,
yeah.
just without all the stuff.
but, we didn't videotape everything
Yeah.
for 100 and however
Yeah.
many years. I mean, like, not everything has
400.
to be on video. It's got minutes that are public and an audio recording.
And
I
the
don't-
invitation
I
to
don't
go
think it's-
attend.
Yeah.
I-
So,
And you can come. I mean, people
Yeah,
maybe don't
people
come to
do-
these
but they
meetings
do,
because
yeah.
we videotape them. So
That-
I'm not,
They're not going to come anyway.
So, okay, so we're getting
Pessimistic.
a working meeting for the host agreement, and, I just lost it. What's the other one?
Justina had
Fees,
something.
use of town property.
Use of town property. Okay. And those could be 2 separate meetings if that's what you want.
How about we put them in the same meeting?
yeah, I think we
Yeah,
can
we can
handle
do it.
that.
We can
It's-
handle that.
Okay.
That sounds like a
I just
meeting.
have a quick question. Madam Chair, through you to Mr. Hort. It's not a future concern. Something came up today on Facebook that made me realize we issued a victualler license to Alex for Bowl Ashe below the Lighthouse Restaurant.
yeah.
And she is nowhere to be found. Can we reach out to her somehow?
I could reach out to her, I guess.
Courtney or Dan?
We'll try and track it down.
And see what's up with her business license and her plan for the summer. We had heard that she was going to open June 1st. There's an enormous amount of construction going on there. and
Yeah.
Need to know what's going on with her license.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, I did forget one more thing.
Is this a future concern?
Yeah, it
Okay.
is. So, we have our noise bylaw, and we have hardworking people here. And unfortunately, there was another late-night, very loud music thing at the well. And apparently, the people that own the business...
So what's the topic? We don't want to get into discussion. Just say
Right.
you want to discuss the
Yes,
noise
I
bylaw?
would like to ask the manager of the well to come before us, and for us
Yeah.
to, because the owners are apparently not so much around at this
Okay,
point.
so, yes.
Can I reply to that?
Not really, because we're really just talking about future discussions.
The owners are no longer living in Massachusetts. The manager was unaware of the situation with the noise bylaw. She's someone that's from another state, and yes, I'm sure she'd be willing to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Nothing unfriendly, just,
Yeah, no, it's always good to reconfirm the noise bylaw and considering residential areas. Okay, any other future concerns, future discussion? All right, correspondence and vacancy report?
just to have the letter we all signed included in the correspondence, public record thing. Please.
Okay. Minutes?
So did everybody get everything?
Yes, thank you.
And
Yeah.
there are 2 points, and thank Courtney. Courtney, ta-da. So here's the thing, we are way behind, or we're somewhat behind on executive session minutes because
Right.
for whatever reason, these things happen. We have to post it for an executive session agenda item in order to do them. So I really want our next executive session, and if it doesn't come soon, I would like to just have a special little quickie to approve them,
Yeah.
because we're supposed to get them out in a timely fashion.
Yeah, how far, when was the last one?
I don't remember.
That we've had them released since February, haven't we? Because before
Yeah.
the minutes were.
The issue is not the releasing, it's for
I mean,
all of
the
us to read
approval,
it.
right.
And yeah, the approval is when we still can remember, how many toes we have on our foot, if you see what I mean. In other words,
No,
if
but
the
that's
approval
okay.
comes a year later, who can remember what happened? There's no video to check. So may I make motions about the minutes that are
Yes.
regular?
Please.
I move that we approve the minutes of May 23rd, 2019, as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous.
I move that we approve the minutes of May 28th, 2019, as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. All right, and yes, we'll get the executive session minutes going. Okay, so I hope you're all aware, we're going to have an executive session now. So I move to adjourn, this isn't right. I move to, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to
So
adjourn.
moved.
And I second, but I'd like a moment of discussion as is formally allowed, not about the subject, but about the fact that, and this is,
Are we adjourning this meeting?
oh, it's for adjourning this meeting?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, yes, sorry.
Okay,
Oh,
so all in favor of adjourning tonight's meeting?
got my
Thank
motions
you.
mixed up.
And I move to adjourn, no,
No.
this is wrong. Okay, I move to go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Sections 21A, 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. A. Sexton versus Town of Wellfleet and Wellfleet Housing Authority, case number 17, miscellaneous 000728, RBF.
I second.
All in favor?
Need a roll call
No,
vote?
wait, no,
Oh, we need,
discussion.
yes.
And I need-